Morning, everyone. Welcome to the Monday, June 2nd, 2014 meeting of the Lewis County Board of County Commissioners. We have a quorum this morning with Commissioner Funn joining us from sunny Southern California, and we thank her for sending sunshine our way. Looks like we're going to have it for the next week or so at least, so thank you, Edna.
You're welcome.
And so we will begin this morning with the flag salute. Would you please rise?
Allegiance to the United States of America
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God,
one nation.
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Commissioner, I move to approve the minutes of May 19th, 2014.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Are there any changes, additions, deletions, corrections? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. We have two people signed up for public comment this morning. John Anderson.
Chairman Gross and Commissioner Schulte and Funn, I have prepared
John, would you state your name and address, please, so we can get it for the record?
John Anderson, 131 Maple Place in Packwood. That's High Valley 11, about as far as you can go. I've prepared a letter that you have a copy of in front of you, and I also have collected petitions, which you have copies someplace of those petitions with, just short of 100 names, I think. I will read, if you allow me, I will read the letter that I've prepared. Dear Commissioners, my presentation today is short. In short, is to inform you about the terrible phone, DSL, internet, and sometimes even cell services we receive in East Lewis County. Some of the services we pay for have deteriorated to the point most days we have no service at all. This is especially true for internet service. We collected the petitions that I am providing you in a very short period. People were eager to express their opinion. Almost everyone I spoke to is fed up with the present service from CenturyLink. As I am sure you know, CenturyLink provides the backbone that all of the other services use. The DSL service has grossly deteriorated in the past few months. Speeds as slow as dial-up or non-existent service is commonplace. This has been brought about by several situations. One, CenturyLink services are oversold. For those of us that had DSL service months back, it was marginally adequate. Oversell, overpromise, and poor delivery has contributed to extremely poor connection speeds, or no connection at all. New residents cannot even get service, whether phone or internet. Our CenturyLink billings continue to cover service not received. Two, the internet is the choice of communications, the choice for communications and business, and therefore demands more bandwidth to serve customers. From young children to retired adults, the majority of the population uses the internet, except of course for many times in East Lewis County, only because we have a provider that has not kept up with the demand. CenturyLink has let us down. And third, engineering of our system has not been modernized, leaving us with antiquated and poorly designed equipment. Previous engineering must not have included growth as a factor. The situation came to a head the weekend of the Packwood Flea Mart. On that Saturday, May 24th, tens of thousands of users did not have phone, internet, or cell coverage. Both Verizon and U.S. Cellular were taken down. Businesses suffered. 911 services were not available. All of this from Ashford to Morton and on to Randall and Packwood due to what I am told was a dead tree that fell on a fiber cable in the Ashford area. Talked to the business owners of Packwood, Randall, and Morton on how much revenue they lost and the amount untold of revenue lost, and the story is the same whether it's grocery, gasoline, restaurants, or retail, or even online services that we use, such as Amazon. The potential for loss of life was great, with no way to contact emergency service. I underline, there was no 911 service. All because of one line down, and it was not even a buried line. So I ask you the question, why? I understand there's a major backbone that goes through this area, and it is underground. Why are we not connected to that fiber backbone? Why do residents and businesses have to suffer due to extremely slow or non-existent internet speeds? Why do we have only a single point of connection that is obviously subject to external damage? I ask why. What happens if we have a real disaster? How will we get emergency service? How will we contact families out of our area on our condition? Ask the businesses here about the revenues they lost. My personal situation is that I was disabled several years ago and lost my job. I still cannot travel at the rate, so unemployment in that environment is out of the question. However, I could do online training from my home and have several business deals lined up. Without adequate DSL, I cannot even accomplish those jobs. Why? To be very clear, this complaint is not with CenturyLink technicians. Both the local technicians and supervisor are excellent. Any company would be honored to have such high-quality people work for them. The problem is higher up in the management of CenturyLink. Management needs to provide the workers here the resources. They need new modern equipment. Management needs to listen to customers who I think are 99% very unhappy. Perhaps they could take a little bit of money from CenturyLink Field or CenturyLink Stadium and provide the service that is their primary responsibility. So I therefore ask you, the county commissioners, to provide political pressure and the communications needed to restore our lifeline from the community in a style that will allow us to keep up with present day and future technology. We also ask you to investigate with CenturyLink the possibility of federal grants and private funding opportunities if they are available. Maybe the Gates Foundation would help in this endeavor. I thank you for allowing me time to speak to you concerning this serious situation. We look forward to your assistance. Presented by John Anderson.
Thank you, John. And I couldn't agree more. This is a very serious problem, especially during that weekend. And I talked to John a little bit about this earlier, but I don't seem to have as much trouble with the speed on the internet, but that's primarily because I'm using it at 4 in the morning or 11 o'clock at night. And I understand that during the day it slows down considerably. So we are working on it. I've already talked to Mike Strozik, and we're trying to get some things done. We'll do whatever we can do to alleviate the problem. So we're
Thank you.
going for it. Thank you, John.
Mr. Chair, this is kind of an economic development issue, and I remember Dick Larman telling us what some of the problem is, and he's with us today. Do you mind if he comes up and explains some of that, the problem? I think it's a loop connectivity issue. Mr. Dick Larman, you've explained the problem we have in that area, and I thought maybe you could clarify some of it.
Well, being unprepared for this conversation, I'll do the best I can and hopefully not misspeak. Dick Larman, Lewis Economic Development Council, for the record. Part of the, I think what you're getting to is the issue of redundancy being really, really important to businesses and all. I think Mr. Anderson's, and by the way, this was a nice reunion. John and I worked together for about 20 years in the past, so I haven't seen him for a while. It was good to see him. The backbone that causes redundancy that we have now from the dark fiber from the PUD runs to Morton, from I-5 to Morton, back to Eatonville, back to Tacoma. So we have this giant loop of redundancy, but it's not entirely lit. And the PUD cannot do that. Public Utility District can't do that by state law. Someone has to pay for sending the light signal through the fiber through there. Now the link from Morton to Packwood and over to Yakima isn't part of that. It belongs to a whole range of fiber backbone folks, as Mr. Anderson noted. Both CenturyTel and AT&T have backbone fiber that run across the hill. Access to it and redundancy locally to it is an issue that we need to have a conversation with. I have actually a good contact at CenturyTel. I worked with them for many years. I'll be glad to call them on your behalf today. Second, I think there's a conversation to be had with the Public Utility District to see how far their fiber goes up to their Packwood Dam on that route, to see if there's any opportunity for a third carrier, maybe for the town of Packwood, to be able to use.
Okay. Thank you. I do intend to talk to Dale Merton about this also and see if there's any possibility of Toledo Tel working there. They say they can provide service anywhere, so we'll see what they have to say.
Yes, good idea.
Okay. Daryl Soblum. I hope I pronounced that somewhat correctly. And state your name and address, please, so we get it on the record.
My name's Daryl Shublum, 177 Rary Road, Wenlock. I came here to ask you guys to maybe reconsider your stance on the marijuana grow operations. I know now we have the medical marijuana people growing for that and the medical thing, but that seems to be out of control. We're generating no tax revenue or anything for that, and I believe with the regulations that the state has in place, only a responsible business owner could afford to, take upon such a venture. And before I came up here, I was down at my mother-in-law's, where I have to go back to take her to the doctor in a few minutes, but I took time last week to stop and talk to Sheriff Nelson in Cowlitz County, and I asked him why he chose to go ahead and go along with the the situation down there instead of try to fight it like a lot of the people have. And it seems like the police captains, or whatever you call them, from Kelso and Longview, both have decided that it's a much better situation to try to control the legalization and sale of the marijuana than to try to just let it go willy-nilly here, there, and everywhere. And anybody that wants to get any marijuana could, there's no problem finding it anywhere. It's all over the place. I'm just saying that we need to kind of take control of it. I don't like the ideas. I voted against the dang thing anyway. I spent 30 years in the juvenile justice system myself, working there, but I finally come to the conclusion that we really do need to regulate it, control it, and such. I was talking to Mr. Schultz a little bit earlier, and I asked him the difference between same-sex marriage and the marijuana thing. He was saying that the federal government has recognized the same-sex thing. But if they have, then why are so many states having to pass laws to legalize it? That's what I don't understand. It's just the right thing to do. I think the federal government has gone along with it, just like you say. They just have never put it into law or anything.
Bottom line is that there is no law against same-sex marriage as federal law. There is a federal law against marijuana. There is a federal law, not.
What was DOMA?
Pardon me?
What was DOMA?
Not familiar with that.
I thought that was the federal government that.
Oh yeah, but they've basically gotten around that and repealed it or whatever they've done with it. The federal government said it was okay for same-sex marriages. They haven't done the same thing for marijuana,
right,
that I know of.
But they've never really put it onto the books that says it's a legalized thing. But that's just here and there. That's just kind of a little red herring out there. But I guess what I'm saying is, the voters of Washington have voted to legalize it, and it's everywhere now. I think it's time we really took a real good look at how to regulate it, how to reap the taxes that would come in off of it. They're paying absolutely nothing, you know, and I know several people that that are involved in the illegal trade there. It's just pathetic.
Okay. Thank you. Have no other public comment?
Mr. Chair, I move to approve the notice agenda, one item, resolution number 14164.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Mr. Elsey.
Good morning, Commissioners. Tim Elsey, Public Works Director, speaking to item number 1 on your notice agenda, and that is a notice of hearing regarding a traffic ordinance lowering the maximum speed limit on Tennessee Road and a portion of Shorey Road in Lewis County. The hearing will be held on or after 10 a.m. on Monday, June 16th, 2014, and this is resolution number 14-164. Eric Martin in our office is our traffic engineer, and he has performed a traffic engineering analysis on these two roads, which I have reviewed and I do concur with, that would suggest that lowering the speed limit on a portion of Shorey Road and all of Tennessee Road from 50 miles an hour to 40 miles an hour would be appropriate. We used all the information that we had available from the traffic studies that we do, and also used a web-based tool designed by Federal Highways Administration. It's a web-based tool called US Limits 2, and it's designed to help practitioners set reasonable, safe, and consistent speed limits for specific segments of roads. That software uses accident history, the class of the roadway, density of driveways, vertical and horizontal constraints, speed limits, and ped and bicycle use. This hearing will be held on the 16th of this month.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions?
No questions.
Okay, thank you. Is there any further discussion on this notice item?
No.
Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries.
Mr. Chair, I move to approve the consent agenda, items 2 through 8, resolution number 14, TAC 165 through 14, TAC 171.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to approve the consent agenda. Item number 1 is our weekly approval of warrants. We have 373 regular warrants against the county in the amount of $1,052,279.28. Item number 3 is regarding the Economic Development Council and the funding of the council by the Board of County Commissioners. Mr. Larman.
Good morning, Commissioners. Thank you again. Dick Larman, Economic Development Council. These dollars we come biannually to make this request as provided under the .09 RCW for administrative costs for the Economic Development Council. Those costs are strictly for salaries and benefits for in-house staff and accounting.
Okay. Questions from the board?
None for me.
Okay. Bill? Okay. Thank you, Dick.
Danette York, Director of Public Health and Social Services, speaking to items number 4 and 5. Number 4 is resolution number 14-167, approving our contract amendment number 1 to the interagency agreement with the Washington Traffic Safety Commission. This amendment extends our contract agreement through starting July 1st, 2014 through June 30th of 2015, and it adds the amount of $44,682, bringing the total contract to $85,790.
Okay.
Item number 5 is resolution number 14-168, and this is reappointment and appointment of members to the Veterans Advisory Board. So the appointments will be mostly July 1st July 1st, 2014 through June 30th of 2016, and it's for the following members, new members. We will reappoint Tad Belden, and he will fill the regular board position through June 30th of 2016. Appointing James Martin and Donald Keeler. James Martin will be a regular board position. Donald Keeler will be an alternate board position, both through June 30th of 2016. And then appointing William Anholt to fill a regular board position that is being vacated by James Roses, and that will be effective through June 30th of 2015, once this has been approved. Any questions?
I'm just going to comment. We've undergone some changes in the Veterans Advisory Board, and I have to believe that they've been very beneficial. I think the board is working very, very well now, and our new director seems to be working out very well there also.
Yes, both benefit specialists and the Veterans Advisory Board work really well together and providing great services to our veterans.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good.
Good morning, Commissioners. Archie Smith with Lewis County Human Resources. I'm here to present item number 6, resolution number 14-169, appointment of the fiscal administrator. During the reorganization of the budget fiscal department and the creation of the fiscal department, Karma Oaksmith was a unanimous decision for the appointment to the fiscal administrator position. The resolution approves the contract agreement between Lewis County and Ms. Oaksmith's. Ms. Oaksmith's start date will be June 2nd, 2014 in this position. Full details may be reviewed in the terms and conditions of the contract.
Comments?
Any questions?
I have a comment. Yeah, Miss Karma Oaksmith has actually been doing this job since November of last year, and has been spending a lot of extra time, overtime, in this position, essentially this position. We feel she's just ultimately qualified and is doing an excellent job of keeping the county on track, keeping the bills paid and doing the things, and has worked very well with the rest of the directors and staff to make sure that things happen down there. So we appreciate the opportunity to move her into this position, and morale seems to be very good down in that department right now.
Yes, it is.
So,
Extremely.
great. Thank you, Archie.
I echo your remarks, Commissioner Gross.
Good morning again. Tim Elsey, Public Works Director, speaking to items number 7 and 8 on your consent agenda. Item number 7 is resolution number 14-170, and this is bid award for the 2014 countywide hot mix asphalt project. This would award the bid to Lakeside Asphalt. The engineer's estimate was $866,430. Lakeside Industries provided the lowest responsive bid of $755,398.85. This is 12.8% below the engineer's estimate, and we would recommend awarding to Lakeside Industries.
Good plan.
The next item is item number 8, resolution number 14-171. This is bid award for the Looting House Bridge number 87 Maze Bridge project. This would award to Quiggs Brother in the amount of $6,270,422.50. This bid came back at 39% greater than the engineer's estimate, and due to that, we provided a bid evaluation conference with Quigg Brothers and with the engineer. The biggest items where they were over included mobilization. The engineer's estimate was $216,670, and they came back with a bid of $500,000 for mobilization. Once it was discussed with them, it was determined that $500,000 was a reasonable bid. The next area, the largest area, was the superstructure, and the bid item for that was $2.9 million, with the engineer's estimate was $2,028,600. And this is a difference of $871,400. We did discuss that, and of course, both of those items were estimated by Berger Abam, who is our consultant on the project. After discussions, it was determined that $2.9 million is a reasonable estimate for that work and below the second bidder. Another area.
Tim, so on that superstructure issue, what was the basis for that increase? Was it the cost of the steel? What are we, mainly? The main
It's
item.
mainly the cost of the steel, but also the erection of the project itself.
Okay.
But the steel went up. The engineer's estimate was $2 per pound, and their estimate was $3.16 per pound.
Okay.
So the steel prices are going up, without a doubt on that. And then also bridge painting came back at right at $50,000 more than the engineer's estimate, and that's because of a new specification provided by WashDOT in their 2014 standard specifications. And there have been very few projects that have been bid with that specification, so the engineer didn't have a very good estimate or an eye for that. This will certainly go into the files for other counties or entities to use when they're doing their estimate in the future.
What color paint are they?
Oh,
It is the, I don't remember off the top of my head, but it's the paint that you chose. Coast Guard gray. I wanted gray, but we didn't get gray.
I'm pretty sure you did.
So with all of the research that we've done, and also we have contacted DEM on this as to whether or not they would cover the additional increase in this cost. They've reviewed the bids and they have concurred that it is within line of other projects that they funded in the past. We're waiting for a PW from them, a project worksheet from them to ensure that they will cover the remainder of the cost. And we are requesting that we approve the contract to Quigg Brothers based on approval of additional funding from FEMA.
Just a couple of things. When you replace the Chandler Bridge, the engineer's estimate was just over $4 million. And the bid came in from Quigg Brothers at 2.8. Now, 7 years later, the engineer's estimate is at just over $4 million, and the bid prices came in at 6.2, the lowest bid. So it appears that if you wait 7 years to do the project, inflation will catch up with you.
At least partly.
That is certainly part of it, without a doubt. And also, this is a through truss steel structure, and we did that so that we could keep the grades low on either end because of the constraints that we have with SR6 and Looting House Road. And so just the cost of construction of steel along with painting is certainly more expensive than a concrete structure, and plus there is a significant amount of roadway work that has to go along with this as well. But your observation is accurate.
Thank you, Tim.
Thank you.
Any other comments? Any other comments on the consent agenda?
no?
Hearing none, I'll call for the vote on the consent agenda. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Edna, did I hear you?
Yes, you did.
Okay. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. We have a series of hearings this morning, some of which are related, some which are not. Procedures for hearings, for those of you who haven't sat through this before, for the general public. We have a staff report explaining what the hearing is about, and then we have a question and answer period if you have any questions directed to the staff on the particular hearing, and then we'll close the second question and answer period and ask for public comment. So the three direct divisions of that, and the first one that we're doing is a application of classifications of various land parcels. Story. You gonna move the phone down there?
Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the commission. I'm Diane Dory, Lewis County Assessor, and with me this morning I have Jason Morgan. and we're here to present to you the applications for transfer from designated forest land into open space timber, and then new applications for transfer of open space farm and ag into open space timber for several properties. And there are no new applications for this program at this point. They're all transfers, cleaning up our final transition.
Okay, now, none of these are, you've got a Jorgensen timber from a forest reserve that's going into forest open space?
It's going into open space timber, yes.
And this is only a 10-acre parcel to start with?
Correct.
So they can do that with the 10-acre parcel?
Right.
Okay. And the same with the hills, you got 9.5 acres.
Well, actually, the Jorgensen timber one is 19.77 acres. It's more than 10.
Well, the FRL part, it's only got one parcel there that's FRL, according to this document. Am I reading it wrong?
Oh, okay. Oh, you're talking about the one into open space farm and ag.
Yeah, you're moving it out
It was an
of,
open space farm.
my understanding was we couldn't move stuff out of FRL.
We're not actually removing it out of the classification, the zoning. We're putting it into the open space timber, which are actually growing timber on it.
Okay. Any questions on that?
No.
I'll close the question and answer period. Does anybody have any public comment? Oh, Ron? Sorry. Oh. Question answer from the audience.
Ron Averill, Centralia area. Diane, did the legislation that passed go into effect yet where we're using the timber and the forest land?
No, it has not. It takes effect June 12th, 2014. The new law does.
So we're still stuck under the old rules?
We're still stuck under the old one. So we have to clean up what we have under the existing applications because we had no idea that the law would pass or not.
Could you just give us a brief explanation of what changed in that, or what will change?
Right. Senate Bill 6810, or excuse me, 6910 passed by the legislature, and what will happen with that is all land that used to have to go under open space timber because it was between 5 and 20 acres will now be able to stay in designated forest land. So we won't have to do all these transfers. That won't be necessary. And that'll save the taxpayers time, it'll save my office time, and the fees that we charge for doing that do not cover the cost of all the expense of doing that process.
Okay. Any other comments or questions? I'll close the question and answer period and ask for comments. Anybody like to comment? And Diane, would you like your previous comments incorporated into the hearing?
Yes, sir, thank you.
Any comments from the public?
No.
From the board?
No.
Hearing no comments, I will close the hearing on the regarding classification of various land parcels and call for a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve resolution number 14-172, the changing of the classifications of various land parcels.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. I opposed. The motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next hearing is regarding a setback regulation, ordinance 1253.
Good morning. Lee Napier, Director of Community Development. Speaking on this agenda item, first a hearing on an ordinance 1253 and then a resolution to support this ordinance should the board decide to pass. So before the commissioners today is a recommendation from the Planning Commission to revise the setbacks. So this would be a modification to Title 17. And what this would involve is changing the setbacks to make them less restrictive than what they currently are for the side and rear yard setbacks. So I'll briefly review the ordinance, which has been presented in draft form. It's Ordinance 1253, and it amends 4 sections of Lewis County Code, Title 17. The first section that it amends is related to the definitions for setbacks in yards. And based on internal briefings and internal conversations with staff, we realized that there was conflicting language in the existing code. So we took this opportunity to not only clarify it for those who, staff who are often confused by it, but we hope, and with the input of some of the Planning Commission members and one particular individual who lives in the Packwood or has property in the Packwood, we feel that we came up with a better definition. The next section relates to the specific setbacks. They were in narrative form. We've changed them into a table form, and we've actually modified the side and the rear yard setbacks. We've also then added criteria for an administrative reduction. The current code required that all all yard variances go to the hearings examiner. This provides a provision for first an administrative review. And if there is an issue with the surrounding property owners, there is still the opportunity to go before a hearings examiner, but there is a step now in place that we can start there first. Also includes a reference to additional setbacks, a point made by the Planning Commission, that in addition to the setbacks described for zoning for yards, there still remain setbacks related to critical areas, resource lands. And then the other section we added has to do with non-conforming lots, so just making it clear that while you can have a non-conforming lot, you still must meet the setback requirements. Then we've also broken down one section and added language related to the administrative approval process so that there was a provision for a change in code and a change in process related to setbacks. And then the final section is that we are recommending an amendment to move the administrative approval, which is current language, and then we've added administrative reduction process from one section into its own section, so it makes it clearer for the reader and for the staff to use. And that's a summary of our ordinance. We had very good public participation. The Planning Commission had great conversations. We conducted 3 workshops and a public hearing. We had good feedback from residents of the Packwood area, whether it was phone calls, emails, or presence at our workshop. And I want to commend the residents of Packwood for their work on this. Appreciate their efforts and look forward to working with them.
And while this was brought to us by the High Valley area up in Packwood, this is an ordinance that will impact the entire county.
Yes, it
because
will.
it applies to the entire county.
Yes. And we did talk about having different levels. I am accustomed to different setback requirements for different zoning districts. Didn't seem to make sense here in Lewis County. We did comparisons of other rural counties. This seemed to apply. We don't have the characteristics of smaller lots that some of the other communities do. So a person knows what their setbacks are, no matter where they are in the county, for residential structures.
Any questions?
No.
Any questions from the public? Pardon me?
I have one question. Is that you're going to cover the resolution for the scheduling fees as part of this hearing?
Once you take action on this ordinance, if you approve it, then we'll move on to that resolution.
Yeah, separate. It's a separate
But
item.
it's still under this hearing.
Yeah, but we have to approve this ordinance change first. Any questions from the general public on this? Edna, did you have a question?
No, I didn't.
Okay. Any other questions? And close the question and answer period and ask for comments and open the hearing on comments. And Lee, would you like your comments to be incorporated into the hearing?
Please, thank you.
Yeah, so it'd be it. Anybody signed up for this?
No.
No public comment signed up. Would anybody like to comment after hearing Lee's initial presentation?
I would like a comment. If we're talking about approving this and then passing the fees, I still would like you to go over the fees before I vote on this.
That's great. Okay. we'll move on then. So the ordinance calls out a process that is described under administrative approvals. The board also adopts a fee schedule annually. And when we originally drafted this administrative process related to setbacks, we grouped it under administrative approvals. The process was fine, but what we realized is that we were charging people a fee for an activity that did not require the amount of labor that the other similar categories would. So administrative approvals are for home occupations and temporary second dwellings. It's a completely different review process, therefore the fee for service should not be the same. And the fee for service was almost as high as it would be going to a hearings examiner. So what we're...
In plain English, you're making the fee.
So we're adding an administrative reduction process, and then in our fee schedule, we're establishing a fee that matches the service that a customer would receive. So
Which is less than it would have been without this category.
the administrative approval process, they have the same base fee, but there are other fees tacked on. We just want a base fee for this category. So if the board approves the ordinance, we would also ask that you pass the resolution and that you amend our fee schedule for a line item called administrative reductions and a base fee of $280. The only way that fee would change is if it goes to a hearings examiner.
And actually, that replaces the administrative approval?
No, the administrative approval still stands. It separates them and keeps
Okay.
that category related to things such as temporary dwellings, home occupations.
Okay. You okay? So, any public comment on the ordinance? We'll vote on the ordinance first and then on the fee approval with a motion. So I'll entertain a motion to approve the ordinance 1253, Lewis County Code Title 17 setback regulations.
So moved.
Second?
Motion's made and seconded. Any other discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Ed, and I can't hear you.
Aye.
There we go. All opposed, nay. Motion carries. Now, I'll entertain a motion for Resolution 173.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve resolution number 14-173, the new category of fees for administrative reduction.
Second?
Motion's made and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Thank you, Lee.
Welcome.
And on to the next hearing. It's all yours.
The next hearing is related to draft ordinance 1254. This would renew the moratorium upon establishments involved in the production, processing, and retail management of marijuana and related products. In December 9th of 2013, the board passed a similar ordinance, 1249, which established the first 6-month moratorium related to this activity. And we are requesting that it be renewed so that we have additional time. And moratoriums are in 6-month increments, so an additional 6 months to review this issue.
And for your purposes, this is primarily a zoning issue that we're working on trying to resolve if we are going to allow where such organizations or establishments would be in the county or be allowed in the county.
Right, we'll be working with the Planning Commission to look at land use controls.
Okay.
And a recommendation would then come back to the commissioners for their consideration.
And for the public's information on this issue and other issues with regard to planning, our planning department has been virtually decimated. We've had many changes in the planning department over the last 4 or 5 years, and we seem to not be able to keep planners for very long. So everybody has to learn stuff anew and get on the boat, so to speak. So it's been a little challenging to try to bring everything up to speed, let alone getting a new law that the state put upon us to get that taken care of. So, in all fairness to our Community Development Department, they're working as best they can with the conditions that they're dealt. Any other questions on this ordinance?
No.
Then I'll close the question and answer period and open the hearing for public comment. Lee, would you like your comments to be incorporated into the hearing?
Yes, please, thank you.
And public comment on the moratorium? No one has signed up. Is there any comment from the public? Any comment from the board? Any comment from the board? Any comment from the
No,
public?
not for me.
Okay, then I will close the hearing and entertain a motion.
Mr. Chair, I move to approve ordinance 1254, renewing the moratorium upon the establishment of any kind of production, processing, and retail of marijuana in Lewis County.
Second?
Motion is made and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries.
Mr. Chair, with no further business, I move we adjourn.
Second?
Motion is made and seconded to adjourn. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
You're opposed or you're in favor?
I'm in favor.
There you go. Thank you. Motion carries. We're adjourned.